Hi everyone, this is Rick,
This is Anna.
and we're here to review another movie in our long list of reviewing every movie that was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, starting with the very first Academy Award in 1927 28. This
28.
time we're reviewing Seventh Heaven, a movie that came out in May 1927. Directed by Frank Borzaghi. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but anyway. And starring Janet Gaynor and Charles Forel. Now, do you know what Janet Gaynor was also very known for?
Oh, yes, I do. She was famous for playing the main character, if I'm not mistaken, in A Star is Born.
Yes.
The original.
The original A Star is Born, which was recently remade by Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, who won an Oscar for the song. The movie is based on a play, Seventh Heaven, by Austin Strong, and was nominated not only for Best Picture or Outstanding Picture, as it was called back then, but also for 4 other Academy Awards, including Best Actress, which Janet Gaynor won.
Which she won, right?
Yes, she did. Best Art Direction, they did not win. Best Director, they won. Best Writing for an Adapted Screenplay, they won. And Outstanding Picture or Best Picture, which they did not win.
So they actually won three Oscars.
Yeah, at the very first ceremony back in 1928. Other interesting tidbit, Janet Gaynor and Pharrell were actually for a little while a couple in real life.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did know, though, that they were a famous on-screen couple, meaning that they played a lot of roles together. They had a lot of couples roles together.
11 movies, in fact. They played in 11 other movies as a duo together. They were known or dubbed America's favorite lovebirds. What else is interesting to say about the movie? The movie was actually remade with 1937, but with voices. Because this is a silent movie, black and white silent movie, but it was remade 10 years later, still in black and white, but with voices. Now let's get to the actual movie. We just watched it, so just to make a quick summary, the story is of this guy, Chico, works in the sewers, aspired to be bigger, greater than that, to work as a street cleaner. Yeah, big plans, Chico.
You gotta dream big.
Yeah, exactly. On the other side, we have Diane's character, who's
Yes.
living with her sister, who's mistreating her. They're living in a... It's kind of hinted that they're prostitutes, yeah.
At least her sister.
Yeah.
It is hinted.
And, through, misadventures, she almost gets arrested by the cops. But Chico comes in and convinces the cop to not arrest her because she's not a prostitute. She actually lives with me. He lies. Yeah.
Yes. No, he actually says from the beginning that she is my wife.
Yeah, exactly. She's my wife. She lives with me. But that's what he says. And he gives an address.
Oh.
The cop says, okay, we'll check out that address to make sure that your story checks out. And so now they're forced to live together until the cops come and check on them. This is like a sitcom, like a premise, if you ever heard one. What happens is that over time they end up falling in love,
obviously,
for real, but war calls and Chico must go to war, leaves his newlywed wife.
First World War.
It's First World War. It's 1914. Gets into an accident at war. You think for a moment that he's not gonna come back, the movie is gonna end on a sad note, but miracle, he comes back at the very end
from the dead,
blind
and wounded,
but alive. And that's pretty much the movie. So just off the top of your head, what did you think of it?
So one thing that really struck me from the beginning is that when in the beginning, when the stories of the two characters are presented separate, it seems like they both live in these really harsh conditions. Their lives are not perfect. As you said, Chico, he works in the sewers, and his great dreamy life is to become a street washer. So you can imagine he's poor and is presented as such. But when the stories are being presented, you see her story as being something very sad and dramatic and dramatized in the way her and the people around her behave, whereas his side of the story, while not being any less sad, is presenting more like a comedy. It's interesting that even after they get together, it seems to be that way. And after they get together, in the fake relationship in the beginning, he starts teaching her how to, not be afraid, how to be brave, how to look up and dream big and things like this. And so you kind of see them, and at the same time, she also makes him feel all of these emotions. She makes him fall in love with her, and feel this drama of love, and then having to go to war, the drama of, being apart from the person that you love. And so it kind of feels like his kind of easygoing character and her very serious and dramatic character like mingle together.
They meet in the middle.
They meet in the middle, and they teach each other how to take a little bit of what the other one has.
Yeah, they learn from each other, and I think it's a good point that you make about the dichotomy and how they're presented. And on his side, it feels very much like it's to showcase his personality, someone that, even though his situation is not the best one out there at all, is very confident and very hopeful that things will get better, and that they will get better because, as he himself says numerous times, he's a very remarkable man.
Yes, fellow.
Very remarkable fellow, exactly, yes. And so it kind of gives you this kind of a lesson, about like confidence and how much you can achieve, even though his big dream is such a small dream. And when you think about it in a grand scheme of things, he just wants to be a street washer. But he ends up being able to be a street washer thanks to a priest who was passing by. But still, he realizes his dream.
Right.
He never doubted that he would. And throughout the whole movie, every time a challenge is presented in front of him, he always hits it head on. He says, I'm a very remarkable fellow, and there is no way I'm going to fail at that. This is war, but let me tell you, my friend, I'm going to be a colonel by the end of this war because I'm a very remarkable fellow,
Right.
So I think it's very interesting how positive he always is. Meanwhile, she is someone that's probably, because of the mistreatment from her sister and because of the life she had to live, is very more negative.
Right, exactly. She has this idea of herself that she's not a good person and that she probably deserves the fate that. Yeah,
exactly, because her uncle who's rich, was going to take them, but said, tell me if you've been good girls, because I don't want, if you haven't been good girls, I don't want you in my home. Right. She could have lied. She could have said, no, we've been good girls, we haven't done anything bad. But no, she says, we haven't. We're not good girls.
And as far as we can tell from what the movie presents to us, she hasn't actually done anything wrong herself. It was her sister.
But I think that the hint is that they're prostitute, when he says good girl, I think he's talking about have you kept yourself pure?
Yes.
Did you have sex? That is what they meant. And so they did have sex because they're selling.
Right. I still wonder, because it is not specified whether or not she also did that, or was it only her sister? Because her sister was obviously portrayed as a prostitute. Or maybe not a prostitute, but at least a woman who's had sex with.
Well, she gets arrested with the other prostitute. You're led to assume that she was a prostitute. Other than that, so this is actually the first silent movie? Oh no, the second silent movie you've watched, no?
Yes, the second one. Yes.
Are you getting more used to it? Is it still weird to watch a movie and they're not talking? It's just the titles.
I think it's not. I think even the first one, it wasn't necessarily weird. It was the first movie that I've watched a whole movie. But I mean, I have seen clips before. It's not like I didn't know what a silent movie looks like on the screen. Even if I've never watched a whole silent movie, I did know what it would look like, and even the way they put the music over the top, the instrumental music. So, yeah, I don't think
actually,
it's weird.
this movie
It's interesting.
first came out in its first theatrical release with no sound,
No sound at all.
and
Even
and then was re-released with the sound effects and the music over it.
That is interesting. One thing that I find more curious than the fact that it has no sound and the titles written on the screen, one thing that really gets to me while I'm watching is I don't know what to call this, the speed. It's like everything is in fast forward, the way they move.
When they speed up stuff, yeah.
Yes, like the way the soldiers were walking to war. It almost feels, I mean, if you've seen even, like, as I said, even a clip of a silent movie, you know what it looks like. Like their movements are not in normal speed. They're a little bit like speeded up.
Yeah.
And it looks very funny to me. It's hard to watch a war scene or a scene where someone is supposed to die and be serious about it when they move like this.
Yeah. And this is used now sometimes in movies, but mainly for comedic effects, which is why like when you see that,
I suppose.
and a more serious, though the whole movie wasn't that serious, but like in more serious scenes, it is kind of jarring.
Yes.
So
wait, before we move on, there are I think two more things that I want to say about the movie. One thing that was curious to me was that some characters who seem to be of some importance in the beginning, like the sister and the aunt and uncle who were supposed to come there and save them, didn't make any more appearances. Well, the sister
appears again.
Yeah, the sister did come back for a scene that didn't really have much of an impact, other than showing
it's to show the growth. It's to show the growth of the Diane's character.
Diane's character, right? But the aunt and the uncle didn't come back, and I thought that was curious because when I watched it in the beginning, I thought, or at least when I got to the part with them, falling in love and getting married and everything else, I thought, okay, this looks a little bit like a modern fairy tale, let's say, like. She was poor, he was poor, but they found each other, they fell in love, he's going to war. I was convinced that he would come back. It felt like that. It felt like it was going to be, a little bit of a fairy tale story. And so if it was like that, I expected the aunt and uncle to come back at the end and to kind of regret leaving her out and not helping their good niece.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. They didn't.
But that's the harsh truth of reality, though, because even though he comes back, which is a bit, hicky, so he comes back, he didn't die, but he comes back blind. And even though he says, I'm not going to be blind for long because I'm a remarkable fellow, I assume that, like, you can't just stop being blind because you want so.
Right.
And so you think about what their life would be going forward. They're already poor, and if he's blind, there's very little work he can do.
But think about.
But that's just hypothetical.
Think about their love story in the context of that time. The movie was made. Well, it was made after the war.
Yeah.
So it was made and shown to people who had probably lost, women who've lost husbands or people who've lost their sons in war, and they showed this story in which the male character who goes to war comes back miraculously, even though he's hurt and injured, and you have to think it's what most of those people would have hoped for.
Yeah.
That their loved ones would come back regardless of.
Even if he's blind, I'd rather he comes back alive, of course. So I was asking you about what you thought of silent movies because she won for Best Actress, and I find it like a bit hard to like gauge performances when there is no voices because I'm so used to it. And so, what did you think of her performance? Did you think like he was deserving of winning?
It is hard to know what they were.
What she was up against, or
oh yeah, that too. But also, what were they like what was at their base of their judgment when they decided who would win the best actress? Like, what were their criteria? Because if I see a performance like hers today with voice, I will think that is overdramatic. It seems overdramatic, the way she acts, the way she moves, her body movement, everything.
But she has to, because there's no voice.
Exactly, but because there is no voice, she has to express everything, all the feelings, literally to make you understand what is happening. Like, even if it's a conversation, this is something that maybe someone who hasn't watched a silent movie wouldn't know, that not everything they say is like translated in titles. Sometimes you see them talking and you don't know what they said, like there is no title to tell you what they said, but you still understand what the conversation is about.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that from the way they act. So I think she was good at doing that. So for that, if that was one of the criteria, and I suppose it would, I don't know, I suppose it would be.
The movies she was up against would all been like that, so.
Yes, exactly. So I think she did manage to transmit all the feelings and all the emotions and to make you understand the story. That is, I think, one crucial thing that was necessary in silent movie era, to make you understand the story without speaking. So then to make you understand the story only with body movement, body language.
Yeah, the music helps a lot too.
It does, yes.
So to end this, can you just say whether or not you would recommend this movie to viewers out there, or anyone that you would talk to in the street and say, hey, have you seen Seventh Heaven? You should go watch it.
I will always have maybe I will always hold back a bit on recommending these old movies, because I understand that more than anything, when it comes to old movies like this, not everybody would enjoy it.
Would sit down for 2 hours. The movie is 2 hours.
2 hours long, yes.
And watch a movie in which no one talks.
Right. So on that note, I haven't watched that many so far. This is my second silent movie ever. But I do consider it to be about as good as the first one. So yes, I think I would recommend it. If you like old movies.
Did you like it?
I did like it, actually.
Yeah?
I did.
I liked it. I was entertained, and I think that's all that matters at the end of the day. It was entertaining, even though they were not talking, even though it was in black and white. And so, like you said, I would be careful about who I recommend it to, but someone that I know is interested in movies and like...
Or maybe someone who has a curiosity just about what old movies are like. Like if someone asked me, I would like to watch an old movie, I would tell you maybe watch this one.
But then I wouldn't say maybe watch this one, I'd say like watch a Charlie Chaplin movie or something, maybe a bit more...
We didn't get that far yet. Yeah. We're only at the second movie.
But still, someone who I know is interested in these kind of movies, I would recommend it to.
Right. Well, let's put it another way. If someone asked me, should I watch this movie? I would say yes.
Exactly. And if that was your question coming in, you know your answer now. So see you next time.
See you next time.